this evening is interesting because it is found inside a history book. First Chronicles is a history book. It records dates, it records genealogies, it records names and places, it records historical events. It's a history book. If you don't like history, you're not going to like First Chronicles. But mind you, you still have to read it because it's still God's Word. And so the author of First Chronicles is recording history after history after history until we arrive here at chapter 16. And the author does not record a historical account. He records a piece of poetry, a psalm. It's interesting that this piece of poetry, which belongs in the book of Psalms, and it is found there, it's Psalm 105, is found inside a history book. Well, apparently, the author found it necessary and fitting to include this psalm here at this point in time. Why is it necessary and fitting? Let's look back a few chapters. A few chapters back, David becomes the king of Israel. After taking the throne, he takes back Jerusalem, God's territory. He then accumulates men and allies to help him in his kingdom. He then goes to war and he wins victories in the name of the Lord. He constructs buildings and he builds up the city of God. And to top it all off, David brings back the precious ark of God into Jerusalem. It looks like everything is doing very well for David. And everything is doing very well. And when everything is doing very well, and David is ready to settle down inside the palace, what does he do? And that's why this psalm was recorded here. When everything was said and done, David stops, sits down, and he remembers God. He doesn't forget to thank God. He doesn't forget to worship God. He takes the time to do that. We live in such a fast-paced society that we just can't seem to wait. And we want everything done in an instant. Instant coffee, instant noodles, instant girlfriend or boyfriend maybe. I've heard of stories of people back then who used some sort of ancient and archaic courting technique that lasted for about a year or even longer. Today it's just like this, a snap of a finger. People just can't seem to wait. If the DSL happens to be slow, your blood pressure starts to rise. Does any of you remember that barbaric instrument called dial-up? Now that was slow. I'll tell you the truth, that was so slow. People just don't seem to have the time anymore. Taking the time to stop, sit down, and meditate is no longer something that our time can afford. We just want to work. We just want to finish whatever it is we need to finish. We just want to get on to the next project. We just want to start the next assignment. And a lot of times we forget to pause for a while and remember God. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Psalm chapter 46, verse 10 says this: "Be still and know that I am God." Friends, learn to be still and know that there is a God out there. Learn to talk to this God. Learn to build this relationship with God. David stops, sits down, and he remembers God. And he gives up to God the psalm of thanks. The first thing that I want you to notice about this psalm, is the object of David's worship. The object of David's worship is God. Look at this, verse 8. Give thanks to the Lord. Call on His name. Make known among the nations what He has done. Sing to Him. Sing praise to Him. Tell of all His wonderful acts. Glory in His holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Look to the Lord and His strength. Seek His face always. You see, the object of David's worship is God. The object of our worship is God. Today, we have come here together to worship God. I don't know why you came here today, but I hope that we can all change our mindsets and desire to come here to worship God and to worship God alone. David begins his psalm by telling the Israelite people to give thanks to God and to sing praises to Him. Where can we find that? Verse 8. Give thanks to the Lord, call on His name. Verse 9. Sing to Him. Sing praise to Him. David is telling the Israelite people that they better get down on their knees and thank God for what He is doing. And David knows it's because they will not be able to get this far, winning victories and building cities, if they did not have the help of God. Oftentimes, we do not stop. We do not sit down. We do not remember God. And we do not thank God for the many things that He is doing in our lives today. And I'll tell you the truth. God is doing a lot of things in our lives. And sometimes we just don't see it. My parents are getting pretty old. And one of the things that they want to do is to go abroad, travel the world, and see the sights and sounds of different countries. And when my parents go abroad, they usually drag me, my brother, and my sister along with them. And so I've been to about 6 different countries in the past 4 years. And one of the things that I don't like about going abroad with my parents is that they always join the tour. The itinerary is set up. Everything is prepared. We just have to follow it. I'm more of the adventurous type. I'd rather follow my own schedule. I don't want to be waiting for the tour group. I'd rather go and adventure where I please. And being on the tour bus, and we spend a lot of time inside the tour bus, and listening to the tour guide with his dubious English just bores me to death. Really, it bores me to death. And so more often than not, I can be found sleeping inside the tour bus. And so one time, the tour guide approaches me and says this in Chinese. Di kun di bi kim. Any Chinese people around here tonight? Woo! Any Chinese? Di kun di bi kim. Or in English, here it is in English. You're sleeping your dollars away. Hope none of you guys are doing that right now, huh? You're sleeping your dollars away. And it's because I was inside the tour bus. But instead of marveling at the beauty of a different country, I was sleeping. And oftentimes, I feel like that's what we're doing here on God's green earth. We're living in it. We're walking in it. We're inside the tour bus, but we're sleeping. We're not seeing the beauty of it all, of what God is doing every day. We're not seeing God's miraculous hand in everything that occurs in our lives.